This game is a masterpiece and might even inspire you to take up a new opening. Who was playing with the black pieces? Of course, it's the world's #1 cheese master, Magnus Carlsen, and his opponent was Tan Min Lee. They were playing online chess in Tilted Tuesday, 11th of March, early tournament. Fasten your seatbelts, this one's incredible. So after this move of d4, Magnus pushes forward with the c pawn. He was rolling a dice online to see his first opening move. We got some wackiness. I'll link a video at the end where he plays a crazy opening move in case you missed it. This pawn charges on, knight f6, the explosive c4, and this starts the Benoni defense, right? This one develops to c3po, and after takes, pawn takes. The computers love this position for white. Why? Because you've got the central space, right? The pawns, everything like that. But Magnus now gives us this clinic in how to play on the dark squares. Now you can go h3 here and bishop e2. However, Tan plays knight f3, and it's just not ideal because now after a6 threatening b5, shut down with this pawn push, you can achieve bishop g4 because no h3 was played, and because no bishop e2, you can't now rotate this knight around. You know, sometimes it sits here, etc., or it can support e5 later. Now bishop e2 is played, but Magnus doesn't need asking twice, goes for a bit of chop chop suey, one of his favourite dishes. This one recaptures, he develops, and he's got this lovely harmonious dark squared thing just rolling already, right? Bishop f4 targets the pawn, queen e7, queen c7, pick your flavour. Magnus goes for this one here, and after rook e1, now we get castles, and you could go e5, but it's not a good move. Just wanted to show this one. Looks like you're geared up, but actually after takes, this one, queen e6, you know, black holds on. Yes, you could take here, but you're actually just opening lines for white, right? We won't keep clicking around. So we didn't see e5, instead queen b3, the pawn now defended, and you should just slow play it here, you know, h3, that kind of thing, right? But what was played, pawn a5, go into Clamptown, but it actually doesn't help things because beforehand with the pawn on a4 you couldn't push b5, or takes, knight takes, you walk into a pin but no way to take advantage of it, queen just slides, white's doing great. However, now that you pushed, black can go e5, or b5 rather. First Magnus drops back the knight, that bishop ready to devour some delicious
mushrooms.
We now see bishop e2, knight c7, and I've got to say Tan is probably just completely depressed at this point. He plays bishop f1, having snaked out here, 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 and back here, arguably opening the eyes of the rook, or just setting up the board for the next game because he's already so depressed. Either way, Magnus now plows boldly forth like Jean-Luc Picard. We see takes on Croissant, excuse me, and now Magnus, rook lifts, whispering nothing but a peanut, and after queen c2, look at this. Someone is about to get rook rolled. Rook a2 is actually the best because you defend and stay attacking, but this very, very smelly move is played. Rook a b1. Wow, just staring into your own foot soldier. You could immediately go knight b5, but Magnus has got something so much cooler planned. He lifts this rook to the b4 square. We get h3, h5 takes some space. Now b3, not entirely sure the point of that move, why the pawn's better here and not here, but okay, we're going to proceed. Because now Magnus boldly charges forth with knight b5. We get captures, pawn captures, and hang on. This one's getting a bit trapped. Bishop d2, rook d4, bishop c3. Where are you headed? Well, this is the moment that Magnus picks up his Viking-sized vase of water. That's how the world #1 rolls. Takes a big gulp and plays b4 to shut things down on the pawn structure. The bishop does capture the rook, not even best apparently. The all-powerful engine wanted to drop back. Now this one centralizes, and look at that, a new pope is born. Pope D the fourth. What an absolute piece, a monster that is. This one challenges it already, but Magnus sets up the triangle there. We get bishop c4. You know, it's so depressed back here. It decides to go and be a big pawn. Now we get h4, more dark square dominance, rook f1, and you could now go queen e5, rotate the knight to f6. Of course, the hand itches to play king g7 as well, but it's why in over the board chess they teach you to sit on your hands. Don't make knee-jerk reaction moves, but be careful. If you've had a tin of beans for dinner, don't want to sit on your hands too long. Now we get knight e5, given question mark, but only if you get takes here. Not played. We go to analysis mode, back cave. This is how the line proceeds, and this is why the knight is actually a little clumsy here. You know, when you took on d4, you relinquished this pin on the king, the pawn could thrust forward. This is how it can go, and you get something of an equilibrium. Here's a sample line, right, etc, etc. Let's pause it there. But we come back. This one wasn't played, giving back material. Instead, king h1, freeing that pawn to run, but now Magnus sits on the head of it like an all-powerful female sumo wrestler. Do female sumo wrestle? I don't know. I'd pay to watch it though. And now you could again capture on d4, apparently best, but the circumstances aren't as good anymore. You know, the pawn can't run, kick the knight. So instead, we see queen d2, and this is a sign of desperation almost, because Magnus has many good moves. g5 takes the queens off, or he can even capture a pawn which has just been offered. Now this one gets the question mark, mainly because it opens lines of attack for the bishop. This is played, best move, but Magnus just snaps it off. It could get dangerous otherwise with a quick f4, f5. Now we see queen takes, and he picks up yet another pawn. Not forced to take it. You could have even taken the queens off. Technically white can activate now with this sort of thing, but they're difficult plans to find, low on time. How natural is this? f4, f5 on the way. And I love this response from Magnus. I mean, the understanding he's got of chess, the feel for the position, right? What does he do? He plays queen f5, offering an exchange, even at the sake of the pawn structure. I mean, there's one only a mother could love. You could take here, right? This is how a line could go, but still, Magnus marching in, and he's slightly in command of this endgame. You know, something like this. Black stands ever so slightly better. That was a possible line, but we didn't see takes played. Instead, we get queen e2, keeping them on the board. Now king g7, how very satisfying. We get queen e1 going after the pawn, so queen f6 covers. Now this one lifts, no clue why. Tan just can't stop pogo sticking it. Keep your eye on that rook. Rook a8 is played. Of course, the file can't be challenged by white. And after f5, really natural break. This is what Magnus has planned. He slides on by like a ship in the night there. And look at this. Magnus, Willy Wonka Carlsen, got all of the pieces on the chocolate squares here. I mean, it's just a picture of harmony. This really is exquisite. You can learn so much from this game. Queen e4 centralizes like a widow spider, hits the rook. It could slide into a2. Magnus doesn't even want it, playing with his food. This one jumps back, you know, pogoing away, like I said, hits the queen, g4, rook invades, and this one comes back. What to do? Tan's devoid of ideas. Rook e5. Now it goes back once more, and d5 starts to break in the center. It does beg the question, what if you now try and give back material? Well, there's actually takes here, and black's doing great. You know, you can do this, but the king marches in ultimately. And this pawn, you know, and the king and everything, absolutely dead lost. That's just a sample line, of course. So we run back. What does Tan do? Obviously, he just carries on the old pogo stick. He absolutely loves it. Got one for Christmas. Brand new shiny thing. Rook e4 now hits the queen. It's just got one square, not quite in jail. The explosive c4's played. And after takes, here come the space invaders. Rook ff1 played. b3, I mean, I absolutely love it. Magnus just taking it up an extra gear here, right? Like Emil Heskey, like Jamarcus Russell, like Frank, he just knows how to take things to the next level. We see rook de1 played. Now rook takes on e1, rook recaptures, looking for the invasion and checkmate, but simply Queen takes on f5. Now the king can escape. Now you also threaten mate if this one comes down. You know, then there'd be this bishop action and the queen mates on this square. So instead we see queen e2 miserably sliding back. Again, Magnus offers the exchange of queens. There's a lot of bleating going on from his fans. Queen g4 played, bishop f6, queen c8 and b2. We saw resignation here because the queen's going through. How do you actually stop it? You know, you can come behind it like this, but then just c3, right? What to do? I don't know, this, and then maybe this, and this is coming, and blah, blah, blah. You know, hopelessly, miserably over. This was the final position. Truly incredible game there by Magnus Carlsen. And if you want to see another, he played in this very tournament. Truly remarkable game against Pragnananda. Crazy opening. Have a look at the video on screen. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.